Hey, what's up everybody? I'm Matt Bruck, this is Adam Reever from Floyd Rose, and this is Guitar World's Tech Education on CD-ROM. Okay, so today what we're going to focus on is string changes and intonation for Floyd Rose locking tremolo systems. Everybody's got a Floyd Rose, it seems. Almost everybody, or half the players out there have a Floyd Rose. And unfortunately, a lot of players are very, very, very frustrated with their Floyd Rose systems because they're not up to speed on how to achieve a string change and a maintenance on string changes and intonation that lets them really take full advantage of what a locking tremolo system offers. And I've got my friend Adam Reever here. What's up, yo?
Hey, man.
I got my friend Adam Reever here from Floyd Rose. Adam answers a ton of questions from people on a weekly basis about Floyd Rose systems and maintaining them for proper performance. So without any hesitation, let's get into it. Let's go through a string change and an intonation process. There is one thing we covered in the last segment, which was something called blocking, and it's kind of like a prerequisite. You kind of should go back if you haven't seen that segment and understand what it is that we put out there for you, so that it's the basis to be able to work on your guitar. And we're going to start with a blocked tremolo.
So what Matty's talking about here is blocked, meaning this bridge will not pull up. Again, watch the blocking segment.
Show the block too.
So once again, tremolo stopper in this setup. We showed you a couple alternate ways to block the bridge in the blocking segment. But blocking the bridge, having a nice, tight, stable environment to do your tuning, string change, and intonation. Remember, you're not locked into the block. We're going to take it off in the last step here, but it's blocked and stable to work. This is where you're going to make up the time, where it's not going to take you 2 hours to change your strings. It's going to take you 10 minutes. Ready?
Yep.
Basic string change and intonation. So we've already established that the bridge is blocked. So if I pull up on this, it's not going anywhere. It's nice and tight against the block. We have a nice stable environment to do tuning and intonation and string changing. If you didn't watch the blocking part, go back. Don't do this part until you're blocked level to the body properly. So before I change the strings, I'm going to reset the fine tuners to 50% of their range.
Which means that you can either send them sharp 50%
I'm going to show
or
you a trick.
flat 50%.
Right in the middle. And a good way to find 50% of their range is if you take the E string fine tuner and crank it all the way down till it stops.
To 11?
To 11.
Right.
Then you take the D string fine tuner, crank it all the way out until it stops. It's not going to come out because they're locked in there.
There's a stop thread at the end of the...
So the E is all the way down, the D is all the way out, so I use that as a gauge, and I use the A string to find the middle between the two.
Low, medium, high.
So once I have the center established between the E and D, I'm going to put them all to the same height as the A string. And it's not an exact science, but just get close. Good. So now, your fine tuners are set at 50%. Blocked, 50%. We're ready to change the strings. The way we're going to change the string is 3mm Allen wrench up to the locking nut at the headstock. We're going to loosen the nut clamping screw and remove the block and the screw. We can talk about replacing the block in the exact same fashion.
Yeah, just when you take the block off of a locking nut, what I like to do is, as it comes off, place it just exactly as it sits on the bridge, or at the nut, so that when you put it back on, it's holding down the same strings. One thing people do is they don't pay attention to this, and it becomes reversed. And what happens is, this is a brand new Floyd, but in time, you get little grooves in the lock top. And if you were to reverse the A and the E is a bigger diameter, which could promote slippage eventually when this wears in and wears down on the A string. So just when you take it off, put it down and make sure that it goes on the same way. The E and the A nut stays that way. You always use the G and the D nut, and you always use the E and the B. They always come off and go back in the same position.
Cool. So now I'm going to loosen the string at the peg here with a peg winder. So just to give you a little idea, slack the string. So now the string's nice and loose. And I'm going to loosen the string down at the bridge now, on the bridge saddle. Same thing, 3mm wrench. Loosen the string lock screw. Remove the string. Remove the string. Done.
Time for a new string.
Time for a new string. Absolutely. So there's two schools of thought on how to thread these strings. Some guys like to thread them with the ball end up at the headstock. They get it up here and just clip it kind of right over the fine tuner.
The ball end sort of suffices as an alternate to tying a knot in the string post.
Exactly. But today we're going to do it
the old school way.
Old school, how we did it when we were kids. When I was a kid, I'm going to clip the ball end off of the string right where the additional wrap starts there, leaving that thicker base of the string. I'm going to drop this end of the string straight into the saddle till it hits the bottom, holding it right in the center. While I'm holding it in position, I'm going to tighten up the string lock screw, take my 3mm wrench, crank it in there nice and tight.
We like it tight.
Absolutely. Good to go. We're locked in at the bridge. Come back up to the headstock. We're going to thread the other end of the string across the nut, under the string retainer, and right into
string post.
The string post. I'm going to leave just about enough slack so I get 2 to 3 wraps around the peg at the headstock. Take my string winder, bend the string up, give it some crankage there, until we come up to relatively an in-tune position. We're just going to get close.
Okay.
Repeat this process across all 6 strings.
And when you're done,
absolutely, when you're done,
put the lock nuts down.
Don't tighten these yet. We're going to leave these loose still. So
you still need to stretch.
Stretch and tune. So even though the lock nut is on, I have it nice and loose. It's just in position. Right. I have freedom to use the tuner.
Right.
I'm then going to clip the excess string off at the headstock.
Do you ever poke your finger and get blood running
yes.
all the time?
I hate when that happens. There we go. That's the string change. So now I'm going to do some basic tuning. But before you tune with the new strings, you want to stretch them and break them in a little bit.
I've covered stretching before in other segments. Any particular type of stretching you like to use?
When I'm using the original style Floyd, like this, I hold one hand down here, I give it a good wiggle, some yanking, play it around.
Some yanking, eh?
Just a little. Never hurt anyone. Get all the play out of the string. You'll see it's already. Let's turn on our tuner here.
There you go.
I'm going to bring it up to E. I'm tuning this guitar to 440. This is where if you tune your guitar down a half step, tune to an alternate tuning, an open tuning. This is a great misconception. Guys think you can't play open G tuning on a Floyd.
Sure you can.
You can play any tuning, any gauge string.
As long as your bridge is set up for it.
Right. So remember, we're blocked. It's not going anywhere. 50%. We're going to establish what tuning this guitar is going to be in. This guitar is going to be set up to standard 440 tuning. So I'm going to stretch all 6 strings. Then I'm going to go right down the line and tune all 6 strings up to pitch. We have all 6 strings replaced, stretched, and tuned.